NCAA has agreed to a settlement which will clear the way for college athletes to be paid directly for the first time. As part of the agreement, the NCAA is settling 3 federal antitrust lawsuits and will pay $2.77 billion in damages over the next 10 years. But that's only half the story. The NCAA and the 5 largest conferences agreed in principle to a revenue sharing agreement which will allow each school to pay their athletes. The schools will pay 22% of their average athletic department revenue, which comes out to about $21 to $22 million annual. Now, all of these agreements still need to be approved by the judge presiding over the 3 cases. Schools are expecting to start sharing revenue in fall of 2025.
Formal settlement documents were filed with the Northern District Court of California to advance the settlement approval process to resolve class action lawsuits involving the NCAA. While there is still much work to be done in the settlement approval process, this is a significant step towards establishing clarity for the future of all Division I athletics while maintaining a lasting education-based model for college sports, ensuring the opportunity for student athletes to earn a degree and the tools necessary to be successful in life after sports. The settlement documents addresses 3 cases: House vs. NCAA, Hubbard vs. NCAA, and Carter vs. NCAA, involving back damages and future benefits for Division I student athletes. This is another important step in the ongoing effort to provide increased benefits to student athletes while creating a stable and sustainable model for the future of college sports, said commissioners of the 5 conferences and NCAA president. Now, going into the settlement here, it said the settlement addresses 3 primary issues: payment of back damages for claims related to name, image, and likeness, the NIL, academic-related awards, and other benefits, increased benefits from institution to student athletes going forward, including additional NIL opportunities for student athletes directly with the institution, and eliminating scholarships limits in favor of roster limits. The settlement calls for total back damages of approximately $2.78 billion to be paid over 10 years, equating to approximately $280 million annually, with distribution of back damages as determined by plaintiffs.
In an historic first, the NCAA and nation's Power 5 conferences have reached a deal to pay their athletes. The ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and Pac-12 accepted the general terms of a settlement that will see the NCAA pay nearly $2.8 billion in damages over 10 years to nearly 14,000 athletes dating from 2016 to now.
Going forward, the settlement allows the A5 conference member institutions and other DI schools that choose to participate in the new structure to provide increased benefits to student athletes, including for NIL. If approved by the court, this model will allow schools to provide up to 22% of the average Autonomy 5 athletic media, ticket, and sponsorship revenue to student athletes starting in the 2025-26 academic year. The future model could result in student athletes receiving $1.5 billion to $2 billion in new benefits annually. The new benefits that may be made available to student athletes would be in addition to the myriad benefits currently provided to student athletes, including free tuition, room and board, educational grants, academic support, and tutoring, medical and mental health resources, and support nutrition resources, and support life skill development, superior coaching and training, and extended medical coverage after they stop competing. Adding these existing benefits together with the benefits to be available under the new model, many A5 schools would be providing nearly 50% of athletes' revenue to their student athletes. Under the new model, institutions may pay student athletes directly for their NIL rights. Any institutional NIL payments would apply towards the 22% cap. Third parties may continue to enter NIL agreements with student athletes. Such agreements will be subject to review to ensure they are legitimate fair market value agreements and not used for pay-for-play. NIL payments by third parties will not apply towards the 22% cap but must be disclosed to a clearinghouse for review. The new model allows for the establishment of a robust and effective enforcement and oversight program to ensure the new NIL model achieves its objectives. The establishment of a clearinghouse for NIL payments over 600 would give institutions access to information about external NIL activities, providing a level of transparency that does not currently exist to allow for better management of third-party influence and better assurance of legitimate NIL activity. Lastly, scholarship limits will be eliminated in all sports and roster limits will be established. Institutions had the discretion to offer partial or full scholarships provided they do not exceed the roster limits. This change will allow institutions to provide additional scholarships to student athletes in the future. The settlement must be approved by the court before it becomes final, a process expected to take several months. If the court preliminary approves the settlement, the class members will be provided notice of the settlement. Class members with claims for monetary damage based on prior conduct will have an opportunity to opt out of the settlement if they choose. Class members, including incoming students, athletes, will also receive notice and be allowed to present objections to the future relief model to the court. So the unresolved issues would be, while approval of the settlement would be a significant step forward, there would still be pending issues to be addressed that highlighted the continued need for federal legislation. These issues include: the settlement does not resolve the patchwork of state laws, many of which will conflict with the settlement. These laws will need to be preempted by federal legislation in order for the settlement to be effective. The settlement does not address ongoing efforts to designate student athletes as employees under state and federal labor and employment laws. These efforts by the NLRB and plaintiffs' attorneys pose a direct threat to both the sustainability of sports programs, especially for non-revenue generating ones, and to the baseline of support provided to all athletes. The settlement is an important step forward for student athletes in college sports, but it does not address every challenge, said the A5 Conference Commissioners and NCAA President. The need for federal legislation to provide solutions remain. If Congress does not act, the progress reached through the settlement could be significantly mitigated by state laws and continued litigation. But it's your boy Dizzle. I'm out. Peace.